Welcome back, Kiss Army, to another episode of We Are One.
You wanted the best and you got the best, the hottest channel in the land. We are one. Here I am and here you are. Welcome to the show and welcome to Psycho Circus Kiss Army as we dive into the void of Kistery. Here at We Are One, Kistery will be preserved with interviews both old and new and the breaking news you need. Now, let's go shout it out loud. Ace Frehley has continued to be doing the most interviews out of any KISS member lately. He's been talking about the fact that Origins Volume 2 is out, and with that being the case, he's been doing interview after interview after interview, and he was recently on the Disc Dive and was asked about Alive and Love Gun and things like that. And he was recently talking about how, quote, "We cheated a little, but it's still great," when talking about Alive and Alive 2, and Ace dives into this a little further. He says, quote, well, here was the question. Let's talk about Alive 2 real quick. What was the thought process going into, like, okay, we're going to do a sequel to 1975's Alive. What did you learn from the first record that you applied to the second one? And Ace said the following. Well, it's mostly Eddie Kramer, you know? All we did was perform live. As you probably know, a lot of Alive and Alive 2, things were overdubbed in the studio. It wasn't a pure live record. I mean, I distinctly remember on Alive that we had 3 separate loops of audience noise, and Eddie had tape machines. And he had these long loops of tape going around, mic stands going back to the machine, and he'd bring it up on the fader. This was kind of the audience response. This was another kind of audience response, and we cheated a little. But it's still a great record. And it still captured the essence of the group live. As much as it has been said, things being overdubbed and things like that, it's a little unfair to KISS in light of how many bands currently, pop stars, rock bands, that's how every live record is. There's some amount of polishing if you want it to sound good. And Ace responded, the whole idea about live records has been watered down because of YouTube. I mean, every time I want to see myself live, all I have to do is wait a couple of days and somebody posts a show I did a few days ago. Trying to actually do a live album isn't that exciting anymore. And when I re-signed with E1 Music recently, 3 more albums, they said. They ordered me to do a live album. And I said, do you really want me to do a live record with YouTube and everything else? And they actually said, maybe it's better if we do Origins Volume 3 instead. After they heard Origins Volume 2, they were thrilled with the way that came out. I think they said, maybe it's better to do Origins Volume 3. So there you go. Then the song Shock Me came up. Another amazing album cover. Another Eddie Kramer collaboration. The first Ace vocal right up front. Shock Me. What was the origin of that, and being that song you felt comfortable? Ace says, pretty much I wrote that song because I got electrocuted in Lakeland, Florida on stage. And that was the catalyst that made me come up with the idea for that song. That was a fun record to do. It opened up the Ace Frehley lead vocal. And that's a real signature guitar solo I did on that. A lot of time working on a guitar solo. A lot of guitar players have asked me, how do you play that? How did you master that? How did you write these solos? I don't know. I'm on top of my head. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. The beauty with Pro Tools now, digital recording, is that I do 3, 4, 5 guitar solos and we take the best part of each solo. Click a mouse and you got a solo. I worked a little harder on solos back then, but I wasn't a good guitar player back then as I am now. It was a little harder for me and a little more stressful. Today, when I think about doing a guitar solo, I just go, yeah, hit the record button and I just riff off. My engineer throws together the solo and boom, you got it. So that's pretty interesting, Ace talking about the recording process of not only Alive and Alive 2, but also about the dependency about a live record now. And Ace saying, no, that's not a good idea. Having been in the business so long, he understands now that a live album then meant that you couldn't just go look it up and see any KISS album you want to performed live. And back then, if you wanted to hear what KISS sounded like live without going to a show, you had to get Alive or Alive 2. And now, you can literally do what Ace talked about and just search whatever you want and you find it. And Ace's point about talking about the solos was less overdub, and you had the ability, now that you're not on tape and you're doing everything digital, that you can literally just riff off a couple of solos and piece them together. So I think Ace is really onto something here when he's talking about there's not really much of a point in a live album, unless you're going to do it like Def Leppard did with their Hysteria front to back, or Kiss Rocks Vegas and put out a big Blu-ray and that type of thing. Because otherwise you can just look it up on YouTube and find a full show pretty much every night the band plays. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comment section down below. Talk to me. Remember, God gave rock and roll to you, and God bless you.
God bless you all.